Good day to everyone. My guest today is LFA fighter Daniel Madrid. So, Daniel, can you put a brief introduction and so we can continue?
Of course. Hi, my name is Daniel Madrid. I am a fighter, MMA fighter out of Phoenix, Arizona. I've been fighting for a little over 20 years now. I was scheduled to fight for LFA for their middleweight title, and unfortunately got canceled. So here we are.
Can you talk a bit on your moniker, nickname?
The Demigod.
Yes?
Uh, it kind of, I used to have another nickname. It was Blackout, and I had received that name back when I was a younger man, and I was in my drinking days, and like everyone just kind of perceived that nickname to be from all the submissions that I had obtained in my career, and unfortunately, it wasn't that. So my wife and I sat down, and she kind of helped me come up with it, and it just kind of stuck, man. And it's yeah, that's what it is.
You're mentioning submission, so I guess your fighting style is a submission attacker or.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing jujitsu for a little over 20 years now. And I've been when I was introduced to it, I became fascinated, but it was more than that. It became an obsession, and I had to learn every aspect of it. And the beautiful thing about this art is that there's never a cap on it. You never stop learning. There's always something, and you can learn it from anybody. So, yeah, primarily I'm jujitsu, but I love to stand up. I love striking, so that's why I love this game.
Do you have a favorite submission?
I don't have a favorite submission. If I had to pick one though, I think it would be triangles. And whether you do it with your arm or your legs, it doesn't really matter. I love how it attacks, and then just all the complexity that comes with it.
Can you describe the meaning of your tattoos?
Oh man, I got a bunch of them. So my whole right arm is a Japanese sleeve. It's got a couple different things on it: for water, the cherry blossoms. It's got a dead samurai, an oni, a foo dog, and a daruma doll. And I think that's my favorite piece about it. And that was the worst one right there. Other than that, I'm working on my left sleeve, which is going to be a Marvel theme sleeve. It's got a bunch of them. But I started switching over to some more of like the cartoony characters of it. I have a big piece on my chest, which is a cover up, but it's for my daughter now, which is my little juggernaut. And then I have a side piece on my ribs, which is a piece for my niece who passed away a couple years back. And then a Latin saying on my back, which is only God can judge me.
Who are your coaches?
My striking coaches are Mario Velez Jr. He's my Dutch style kickboxing coach. My Muay Thai coach is Sandro Lapara. My boxing coach is Tommy Martin. My wrestling coach is Travis Azevedo. My mental coach is Kai Lewis. My judo sensei is Christian Marquis. And my strength and conditioning coach is my wife, who is Nora Madrid.
You mentioned that you love a stand-up game. Looking back at your fights, I've noticed that you fight a bit of distance, probably because you're taller than the many guys in your division. So I guess these are straight punches, right?
Pretty much. I love. You're absolutely right. I'm an outside fighter. I classify myself as more of as a counter fighter than anything. I don't really like to be the first aggressor. I like to analyze everything when I'm inside the cage. Uh, but it's a lot of straight punches, uppercuts, and kicking, elbowing, any chance that I get. If I'm stuck in the clinch, that's what I'm primarily going to be using.
Can you discuss your first pro fight against Gilbert Velez?
Oh my God, you're talking way back in King of the Cage days.
Yes?
Yeah. So that was a fun fight. I had 13 amateur fights before that, and I was technically I think it was 12-1. But in that fight, like I was not prepared for it at all. I took it on short notice. And honestly, had I not finished him in that first round, you would have seen me just completely gassed out in the second. Like I did not train for that fight at all. It was fun, but I mean, I got to do it in front of my hometown, and that was a big reason to why I did it. I got to let my parents watch me fight, and that's like the first and last time they've ever been. So
First four fights of yours, correct me if I'm wrong, were finished via submission. So I was about to ask you, do you have something in common maybe with Kron, with Alexei? They were finishing their fights that way.
What was that? I'm sorry.
Your first four fights were finished via submissions, right? So I was
Yeah.
about to ask you, do you have something in common maybe with Kron Gracie, Alexei Olenik, kinda pretty much similar submission style with them, if you've noticed?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is like when it comes to fighting, like I've always tried to play to my strongest attributes, and my strongest attributes are jujitsu. Um, so for me, I'm not your type of fighter where I'm gonna try to get into a stand up fight. As much as I love it, like I'm not gonna sit there and go punch drunk trying to entertain a crowd and stuff. I want to get in there. I want to take the least amount of damage that I possibly can, so I can continue to make exciting fights as short as possible. So
You fought Japanese legend Eijiro Matsui. Got to say, he was one of my favorite fighters back then, and you were able to defeat him. It was probably a hard match. Everybody are praising him. What do you think of that?
that dude, my God, to this day, is still one of my favorite fights that I've ever been in. Again, that was one of those where I was presented with a short notice fight. I took that fight on 3 weeks, and I mean, luckily for me, I was already in good shape. So we just kicked it up a lot in regards to cardio because if you're familiar with the Art of War at that time, they were doing how Pride used to do it, where the first round was 10 minutes, then you got a 2 minute break, and then you came back for the 5 minutes. So similar to Pride, but not exactly like it. Um, but with that fight, man, we ran into so many problems. Like I was having a problem getting my passport, my visa. Luckily, everything worked out at the very last minute. And when we got over there, dude, it's exactly like you said. Like I got to fight a living legend, and everything that, like all the research we did on him was exactly what we read. Like this guy is beyond what durability stands for. Like I hit him with some punches that I've laid people out with before, and this dude just looked at me, smiled, and shook his head. But yeah, man, to catch that submission at the very end, and I knew he was not going to tap. He's not that type of fighter, so I knew I was going to have to finish him and put him to sleep. And yeah, man, I got lucky. I caught a beautiful submission, and I was able to catch it.
What can you say about your M1 Challenge fights? And can you compare M1 Challenge to the USA-based promotions?
My experience with M1 was pretty much good, man. Like I know there's a lot of negativity that kind of surrounds them, but like as a fighter, like they took care of us. When we were here in the States, I got the chance to fight Tom Galicchio, and I finished him in the first round. And then both times when I went over to Russia, for whatever reason, man, that's my kryptonite. I haven't figured out Russian fighters yet, and they've been able to beat me twice. But man, I had a blast when I was over there. Beautiful country, beautiful surroundings. Can't complain.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you mostly win via rear naked choke. Do you train it very often in the training session, or that's just the way it goes? You transition to back mount, or it stacks back there, or
It, dude, I've been asked this question 1,000 times. It's it's one of those things. It's like you said, it just happens. Like I don't specifically train it. I'm constantly hunting for a submission, whatever that may be. Whether it's if I'm going after feet, if I'm going after knees, arms, your neck, like I'm constantly hunting for it. But that's just it's one of the more common ones between a rear naked choke and a guillotine that tend to present themselves a lot more, especially when you put it into an MMA fight and you daze someone or you hurt them or whatever the case. That tends to be the first thing that you see that's open.
you fought Daniel Hernandez on two occasions, and I've heard stories of him that he is a strong fighter, but some people say that he is not much of an endurance. Is it true or not?
I can't personally say anything about his endurance. We never really, in both of our fights, like, it never went past, I think, the 2 minute mark. Um, in our first fight, I was surprised that he went for a heel hook on me. I expected more wrestling, ground and pound, or even like just standing up in the pocket. But again, that was one of those, and that's the cool thing about that. That was actually my first TKO in my whole professional MMA career, MMA career. And then the second fight, he did exactly what we thought he was, which was he was going to get the takedown super quick. So he didn't want to stand with me, and from there he did some really good grounded pound. He didn't really land anything on me, but it was I could see that he was trying to throw some big punches. And at that time, my professor in jiu-jitsu, we were going over a specific counter in that half guard position, and I was actually able to land it, which was shooting that triangle from that half guard position. And then we ended up finishing with that armbar triangle combination.
You met Ian Heinisch. Well, I guess he's the most famous fighter you met ever, right?
Ian Heinisch?
Yes.
I don't know if I'd say he's the most famous fighter. I think to this date, I think it would have to be Seth Basinski is probably the more well-known famous fighter that I've had the opportunity to fight and meet. But with Ian, man, everything you hear about that kid, about how strong he is, and his ability to fight, like game plan wise, it's sound, it's structured. And with that fight, I learned a lot about myself in that fight. I made a ton of mistakes going into that, and taking that loss, like I didn't put my head down. I didn't do anything. I watched video literally that same night about what had happened, and I mean I immediately adjusted to it. I made some big corrections, and I have found nothing but success since after that.
How did you lock the omoplata in your next fight, and is this your fastest submission win ever?
I believe it to be my fastest submission win ever. I'm not sure if it was that one or if it was the fight against Chris Harris. I'd have to look it up because I know Chris Harris was 48 seconds, and I can't remember against Jones how fast it was. But with that one, it was weird, man, because you don't see too many omoplatas in MMA because they're pretty easy to get out of, just with creating a scramble and rolling. But I was able to immediately sit up. I'm fortunate that my opponent didn't have that much experience in regards to the defense to that specific submission. But yeah, once I was able to get up and maintain him and keep his posture down, everything was good.
I got to ask you one thing about omoplata. Do you think it's very effective in a street fight when somebody pounds you over and over? In street fight, people usually don't know to escape omoplata.
I mean, if it's you're talking one person versus one person.
Yes.
Yeah, I think if you were able to get into that position, I think just for a subduing aspect of it, yeah, I think it's a beautiful submission. I mean, you can't really do much because that person's belly down, you have that shoulder completely locked out, and you have full range of attacking the face if need be. But yeah, I think it's really. I don't know if you'd ever see it in a street fight though, but I mean, who knows, right?
Because it happened to me when a guy took me down. He didn't know that, and I just kicked him with omoplata, and he was unable to slip out, and he was double bigger. No
kidding.
No, really. He was double bigger than me.
That's crazy.
No, he was double bigger than me, and that was my only chance, because I'm a kickboxer, but I have a basic knowledge of BJJ, very basic. I trained, but I didn't go for belts. And I just locked the omoplata, he was unable to slip away. So that's why I'm asking, what do you think as a BJJ expert? Is it good or not?
Hey, if you found success with it, man, you're living proof of it being successful. So, I mean, there you go, people.
So you think it's possible, right?
I mean, you made it possible. I think anything's possible when it comes to jiu-jitsu, though, right? Because we know that I believe the percentage of it was like 85% of street fights end up going to the ground anyway. So, I mean, if you had the knowledge or if you have it to curl your leg around that arm and lock that shoulder, then absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it means a lot when the BJJ fighter tells that, so it's a living proof that it's possible, right? I'm not the only one who does
Definitely.
it. Yeah, thank you. So, you discussed Seth Baczynski, but you were very, very dominant in that fight. You literally didn't give him to do anything. So, what can you say about that fight? And you say he's the most famous fighter you ever met.
I think he just has a lot of, a lot of fights that he's had. He was on the UFC, what was it? Ultimate Fighter. He's had a plentiful amount of fights in the UFC alone. He's had some really big fights outside of the promotion. But honestly, I've known of him for a long time. He trains in the same state as I do, and when we got to meet before the fight, like he was really humble, good guy, and and I got nothing but nice things to say about him. But even in our fight, his stand-up is, I think it's really underestimated. His boxing is really good. There was one time in the fight where he had caught me with a left hook, and at first when it hit, I thought he had poked my eye because I couldn't see for a couple seconds. And you can see me in that fight kind of back, and I'm wincing. And then he immediately rushed me to the cage, and we ended up just throwing a couple strikes and clinching. But no, man, he was really good. It was a good test of will for me, and it allowed me to showcase some of my striking. So hats off to him, man. He's a good guy.
So against Chris Harris, you were very, very much dominant. And another question: what do you plan next? I mean, you said your fight is cancelled or postponed. That's the part I didn't understand. This fight that should have happened at 84.
So what we were told with this with our title fight is that technically it's been indefinitely postponed. To me, that's canceled. I'm hoping that at some point in time, if we can't get on to a bigger promotion, that they'll continue to hold strong to that word and allow us to fight for that title. But I mean, I'm not. I'm always looking for something. I'm doing my best to stay active. Right now in the state of Arizona, all gyms have been closed down, so I'm
Here too.
along. Yeah, okay. So you know how it goes then. So a lot of us as fighters, like we're forced to train out of our house. We're doing our best to try to stay in shape and active as best as possible. So we're staying optimistic and we're seeing what's going to be available to us. With the Chris Harris fight, honestly, my coaches and myself, we had planned for a 3-minute just all out brawl. Like that's the type of fighter he is. He's strong and he always looks to impose his will really quick. And my boxing coach and I, we had been working some like rope and dope possum kind of plays. And you'll notice that in that fight, he was the forward aggressor. I was playing the line against the cage, and he was doing a lot of feints, throwing some really light jabs. So I started timing him on his jabs, and he came in with a double jab. So I possumed up real quick, which I saw his hands drop, and as soon as it did, I popped him with that uppercut, and I saw him completely he just kind of disappeared on me. So that's what led to the rush, take him down, a little bit of ground and pound, and then finish with that rear naked.
Would you like to add something? Maybe greet sponsors or send a message to someone.
Definitely. I'd like to thank all of my sponsors, Clay Coffee, 101 Auto Outlet, Floatology. Without you guys, man, this whole career makes it a lot more difficult without you guys. So I appreciate everything you guys have done for me. To my family and friends, all of my gym mates at Legion MMA, all of my coaches, thank you guys for everything. Follow me on all my social media, Daniel Demigod Madrid. And I wish I could sit here and call somebody out, but honestly, man, I'm just UFC, Bellator, whoever. I'm here. I'm ready. Come get me.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for this lovely interview, and I hope we'll discuss some other time. Thank you for accepting this on short notice. And
definitely thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem. I will try to post it in maybe 3-4 hours. I'll now go edit video, and I will send you on Instagram.
Perfect. I appreciate that. Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right. Have a good one. Bye.